Welcome, everybody to Microsoft Unboxed podcast. This is episode 17. I am your host today, Kareem Anderson. I'm joined by.
David Allen, and I want to say thank you to our loyal viewers and listeners that have put up with us for 17 weeks now.
Yeah, and we actually hit the record button this time. So this should be live as we speak, and it'll be available for everyone later on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube and any other place you can post it. So, with that being said, and we got all of the formalities out of the way, let's get into the news. News of the week. It's been another slow week in Microsoftville, but be prepared. I want to say probably starting next week, if I am judging the tea leaves and catching the wind, we'll probably start seeing, hearing leaks about Surface hardware as we get closer to that Surface date.
Can't
Probably
wait.
more. Yeah, go ahead.
I just said can't wait.
Me either. And then we'll be probably getting more information about Build, some more stuff about AI and what Microsoft plans to debut later on this month. But in the meantime, this is what happened this week. We had the Xbox showcase. And we didn't have the actual showcase, but we do have a date for the upcoming one, which kind of rolls right after um, Build and the Surface announcement. So, back to back kind of things for Microsoft. We'll get into that. We'll be talking about new features for Copilot, for Microsoft 365. Dumb name. They need something catchier, but I mean, it does kind of spell out exactly what it is. Go over and highlight those features for those of you who are paying for Copilot. You'll know now what you're paying for exactly. Starduck is also bringing a cool, fun game this time around for the presidential election. For those of you who are fed up with the politics and the uh, arguments online, maybe this will be a fun way to kind of control that whole narrative yourself. You pick your favorite politician, go through the election process itself. We'll go through some of the details of this game and see if those of you are interested, if we can get ways for you guys to play it. We'll also be talking about Microsoft's fear that led them to kind of basically jump out ahead of the whole AI race. They were afraid of what Google had in store, and so they decided to act fast, act quickly, act bearish on this whole thing. So again, we'll go into details about how Microsoft and why Microsoft wanted to make Google dance. We also been talking about Microsoft launching games on LinkedIn, or LinkedIn just launching games, however you want to give the parent company priority over this. And then lastly, we'll be talking about Microsoft sending out a memo harkening back to their 2002 memo from Bill Gates saying that security should be a priority for the company. Uh, why did they wait 20 years? We'll find out. We'll talk about that in a little bit. With that being said, Dave, why don't you start us off with what we're going to be talking about?
Well, I'm going to start off with something fun, and you guys know that I love my games, and this is my favorite time of year with all the showcases that's coming out, and the next thing, what's coming in the next 6 months as we rush through 2024 and we turn around and next thing we know we're headed for that holiday season. So, Microsoft is getting it out in the wind with a Xbox game showcase for 2024. It airs June the 9th, and basically they have taken the lid off of it. It is June 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, where Microsoft and its partners are going to start to announce what they've got coming for the rest of the year. But here's the catch to this. If you remember last year, the announcement that was done, we had Starfield Direct that followed after that announcement. This year, Microsoft says there's going to be an announcement about one of your favorite titles, an in depth announcement, an in depth dig into it. But to have a little fun, they have redacted the title. They're not telling us. So, sounds like June is going to be a fun month for gamers. Could it also be when Microsoft puts the rest of the Activision Blizzard Cloud, Call of Duty, cough, cough, on Game Pass? Could be. So, if you're a gamer, I'm going to be tuned in. And if you need somewhere to watch it, YouTube channel for Xbox, They're putting it on Twitch, the Xbox channel, and they're also putting it on Facebook.com/Xbox. You can also go to the Xbox Fan Fest website and enter a chance to win tickets to the Xbox Fan Fest in Los Angeles. So make sure you check that out. That sweepstakes starts May 2nd, which was yesterday. So who knows? You could win an opportunity to be there and be a part of it. If not, tune in. I think Microsoft's got some pretty good stuff in the gaming pipeline coming for us.
Yeah, I'm excited because again, we are seeing a concerted effort, a continual effort to highlight games. Microsoft
Yes.
historically had its ebbs and flows when it comes to gaming. They will be all in on gaming for a little bit, and then you won't hear about it. It'll be a valley for a little bit as well, and then next time a console comes up, they're all in on it again, and then it kind of wanes. It seems like over the past at least 5 years, they've been steadily working towards making gaming something that is a priority across Windows, the console, despite the current market share as far as consoles are concerned. They're at least continuing to add new things to Game Pass. Obviously the purchase of Activision is another commitment that they made for two gamers. I'm excited to see what the showcase has. I am also excited to play some of their indie games as a person who is still continuing to play Power Worlds and dying almost every day. That is an indie game that I appreciate, and I would love to see more games like that surface, especially for people who have varied degrees of gamer curiosity. Not everyone is a Call of Duty person. Not everyone is a World of Warcraft. Not everyone is into Final Fantasy, but there are these one-offs that can hit it big, and hopefully Microsoft continues to showcase them next month. With that being
I,
said, okay, no, please go ahead.
I was going to add one more thing. It was not enough to be a specific topic, but for the Starfield fans out there, there is a patch coming in the next few weeks that does allow, while we're talking about Xbox improving things, that does allow 60 FPS finally for Starfield. It will be something like what you've seen with the Spider-Man game on PS5, where you can have an adjustment between visuals and frame rates and be able to balance that out the way you see fit. Because I know there's been a whole lot of people upset that Starfield is a blockbuster tier one title for Xbox, and it does not take full advantage of the Xbox Series X hardware. So it looks like Microsoft is making a conservative effort to improve Starfield.
Yeah, I need to get back on that game as well and die there as well. We're going to move on to something I can wrap my head fully around and doesn't have too many negative consequences, which is Microsoft's new list of features for Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. Again, so many Microsofts. These guys are, you believe they were narcissists with how often they put Microsoft in the title of things. If you are paying for, I believe, Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365, you just got a handful of new features to kind of play around with. We'll start with Copilot grounded to local data. So Copilot for Microsoft 365 users can already ground their data in content stored in OneDrive for Business and SharePoint. But as of this month, they'll be able to also do it using locally stored files as well. Improved efficiency in Word. So Copilot for Word is getting several improvements that include answering questions using the graph grounded data, tune specific documents sections during rewrites, automatically apply sensitivity labels to new drafts when it references files with those labels, and summarize selected text. Again, that all starts as of yesterday or day before yesterday. You'll also be able to copy and paste a link into supported files as a reference into a draft with Copilot instead of kind of searching for it in the file name and reference menu. Another feature you'll be getting is multiple formula column generated in generations in Excel. So for all you Excel heads, you can now return two formula columns simultaneously. For from a regular single prompt. For instance, you can extract both the first and last names from a single prompt. So tell Excel, hey, this is what I need. Neatly separating that information into distinct columns. Microsoft is offering that again that this May. Additionally, you can now use Copilot to create complex formula columns that span across multiple tables, utilizing functions like XLOOKUP and SUMIF. So, again, for those who I do wonder how this is going to change the Excel competitions. I don't know if you've ever seen those like telecast. Like it's kind of like a esports where they have like these Excel games essentially. I wonder if they're going to outlaw using Copilot in order to compete.
I think they're going to have to. I have seen them once or twice. I'm familiar with what you're referring to, and I think I used to go to some programming competitions back in the day. I'm going to show my age here, where we had Turbo Pascal and C++, and they were very quick to turn off the internet connections in the in the rooms we were competing in to keep people honest. So I got a feeling Microsoft is going to have to do something similar here just to keep some of those Excel competitions
Right?
honest. But I'm happy. I'm happy to see this. I'm you know, it seems like we beat AI to death. Week in and week out on this podcast, and a lot websites do it as well. And we talked a little bit off mic about some of, Microsoft being concerned some of the AI developers are going through some burnout. And I believe that is entirely possible as hard as AI has been pushed over the last couple years. But I'm ready to see some of this localized stuff start to filter down for specific uses and see how people are taking advantage of it and see it expand in those areas. For example, accountants, people that deal with spreadsheets every day, inventory, calculations, what can it do there? And see more of the specifics of what AI is capable of. Make that accountant office want to go buy that listen to me, that Copilot subscription. Make that developer want to go buy that Copilot subscription and not have to. Right now, I feel like if I bought it, would I use it? Yes, because we cover it here. We know what it is. But if I'm a business person, I'm still a little hesitant, maybe, as to what Copilot can do for someone specifically. And I'm a little bit ready. I'm ready to see more of that.
Well, with that being said, let me finish the list. Maybe this will perk your interest.
Okay.
Also for Microsoft or Copilot for Microsoft 365 this month, you get secure Copilot web chats in the Copilot mobile app. Commercial users with a commercial license will automatically get commercial data protection when they sign into the Copilot mobile app using a work account, and they'll be able to access the web chats from there as well. Another thing you'll get is Notebook and Copilot. The new Notebook feature lets you create longer prompts that you can refine and iterate over time. It's particularly well suited to tasks generating code or developing a piece of writing. Notebook is actually something I would really like, especially as like we write constantly. So when we go to do editorials or we do reviews, you're constantly jotting down things that you noticed in a review, and you want to kind of keep it all in an area instead of necessarily using maybe OneNote and bringing out that full app, or maybe sifting between OneNote and sticky notes on your computer. This will be something you can access in the mobile app, on the web, whatever. That'd be great to have. So again, I'd pay for just that. Notebook is
Yeah.
available in Copilot on the web and in Bing. Last, we have App Assure, which starts its availability immediately. Microsoft's App Assure compatibility program now supports Copilot for Microsoft 365 customers, moving to a monthly update channel at no additional cost. Companies that move to a monthly update channel get the latest features and custom rollout waves. In addition, monthly updates provide a secure experience that minimizes incidents and disruptions, according to Microsoft. We also get more language support. So I think you get up to about 16 additional languages that are now supported. Let me see if I can get the list for you of all 16. Looks like we get Chinese simplified, English, which covers the US, Germany, Australia, Canada. Uh, we can get coverage for French Canadian as well, German, Italian, Japanese, Portuguese, and Spanish. And then lastly, we get a managed Copilot availability in Teams meetings. Admins can now manage Copilot availability using the Teams Admin Center. It can be configured to be on by default only during the meeting or during or after the meeting if that's so how you choose to kind of control things. So again, pretty hefty list of features for people who were paying for it. Hopefully, they get full advantage of it. As to your point, maybe some of these features that we've listed are exact use cases, specific use cases. They're not the flashy. Let me put it in a 20-second commercial ad online to kind of get people enticed to do it. This is more of just adding to what you're already paying for. I believe it's $30 a month.
More value is it's kind of the like a value added reseller. So more features, better value, kind of makes people quicker to let that $30 slide off the credit card. So I'm all for it.
Yeah. The next thing we'll be talking about is a fun game. This is,
Yes,
yeah, you get into the details about this.
I was very excited about this. Brad Sams, who I believe he is a VP at, or somewhere along that level. I'm not sure his specific title. I'm sorry, Brad. That works with Stardock kind of turned me on to this yesterday that they had released a presidential election debate game, which, I first read this and I thought, well, what could this be? But then, dug a little deeper and found out, well, they've been releasing this every 4 years since 2004. And, I'll have to admit, I'm a little behind the eight ball on this one. This first I had heard of it. So I kind of dug into it and got to looking. And at first I thought, well, for us old console players out there, I remember when playing the game shows on TV for the kick, when you played the Jeopardies on your consoles, when you played the Wheel of Fortunes, but after you had done it a couple times, you kind of realized that things, weren't as random as you would like. So after you had been through the clues and you had been through the puzzles, you kind of pushed it aside. But that's really not the way this works here. You do have that option to play with AI, and you can go through the debate process, the fundraising process, and you can go against AI opponents. But what I thought was interesting, there is an online component to this game to where you can debate someone online. And, when you think about that, how serious could this get? I mean, I really got thinking about it. There are some people out there not making fun of anybody that are really, dug into their politics and, they are believing that they know, what's going on and they're dug into what they believe in. You know, how fun could this get, dealing with someone you don't know debating political topics online? To me, this sounds like some good TikTok videos, some good YouTube videos, some good content. So I think Kareem and I were talking off camera here. I think we're going to see if we can get together some content with you guys and kind of just have some good old fun. I'm not going to throw anything at Kareem or anything if we don't agree on something. Just kind of see what this is about. And you guys jump out there and get it. It's 19.99, $20. Call it $20 on Steam or direct from the Stardock website. So spend that $20. If you've already spent that $20, do me a favor, put it in the comments and let me know what you think about it. I'm very curious about this one.
I'm excited to play. If we learned anything about the internet, at least the internet 2.0, it is nothing but an online debate.
Yeah.
Every place you go has a comment section where people are expressing opinions. And I'd rather people do it here in a fun game than perhaps else places where it could get a little bit heated. So express yourself, play the game. I hope you guys enjoy it. We will keep you guys up to date if we are able to play against each other and kind of let you know more of the details of the game. Maybe you just need someone to kind of test it for you. Hopefully, we'll be those people to test it. But yeah, if you're listening, Brad, we hope that you guys are hearing feedback from people and adding it to the game as well. With that being said, we're going to move on to uh, an interesting topic. This kind of came out. What is this? Two days ago, a day ago, or something like that. That there was an internal memo that was expressed in Microsoft uh, that basically said Microsoft had a fear of how far behind it was in AI and decided to make a giant investment into OpenAI in order to compete. Now, as you know, the result of that is that they kind of came out ahead. Um, let's get specifically into some of the details of this memo about Microsoft being afraid of how far ahead Google was with AI, that it prompted them to kind of do the partnership with OpenAI, spend, like I said, about $10 billion, was it roughly, and kind of come out with the product first, just to make sure that Google uh, couldn't get too far ahead of them, like they did with search. Uh, Recently, there's released evidence in the U.S. antitrust case against Google, which explained that Microsoft partnered with OpenAI instead of going at it alone and pursuing its own in-house AI initiatives, which it does already have. Microsoft CTO, Chief Technical Officer Kevin Scott, who later spearheaded the Microsoft OpenAI partnership, saw how far ahead Google was with its AI models and knew that the software giant needed help. Quote, "We are very smart. We have very smart machine learning people in Bing, in the vision team and the speech team." And he wrote this to, I believe, both Bill Gates and current CEO Satya Nadella. But the core deep learning teams within each of the bigger teams are very small, and their ambitions have also been constrained, which means that even as we start to feed them resources, kind of build on these language models, they still have to go through a learning process to scale up. We are multiple years behind the competition in terms of machine learning scaling. Not a very good sign, especially if you are a cloud provider and you're trying to lead in that. The email called Thoughts on was called Thoughts on OpenAI. It puts OpenAI DeepMind and Google Brain, in the latter two of which are and were Google initiatives, on equal footing, and it serves as the opening salvo into what eventually led to Microsoft's partnership with OpenAI. Again, here's the redacted or part of the redacted email. Quote, "The scale of their ambitions is driving everything from data centers designed to compute silicon to networks and distributed systems architectures to numerical optimizers, compilers, programming frameworks at the highest level of abstractions that model developers have at their disposal," he explained, essentially predicting Microsoft's future path while admitting he was initially dismissive of their work. But that changed. As I dug in and tried to understand where all the capability gaps were between Google and us for model training, I got very, very worried. According to the small bits of the email that aren't redacted, the issue is both scale and time to scale. On the outside, we can all see how quickly AI is evolving and changing the world, and it just seems like Google, again, was ahead. In other words, the email is a call to arms, and it was unclear whether it was the first of Scott's pushes to get Microsoft to embrace AI, or if he'd been trying to do it over time and everyone had kind of been dismissing him. Now, it should be noted that uh, Google kind of started the development of large language models. They sidelined them, and I think if you followed both David or myself online here at the podcast, we've explained why they sidelined them, and it was essentially because it would eat into their core product, search. As David has constantly said, people will have to change their behavior and their perceptions of search as AI starts to kind of evolve. People will, no longer go to the traditional text box to write in a search. They will go to these, I don't know, large language models to kind of get more references. And they will stop probably perhaps clicking on links, assuming that the information is trusted. So with that being said, what are your thoughts about, David? What are your thoughts about Microsoft not only fearing Google, but then preempting them and coming out with their partnership first?
I got to be the bad guy here. I think Microsoft, in this specific context, has always feared Google just a little bit because you had look at Bing. I think there would come a point in the life of Bing that Microsoft decided, yeah, Google's winning. And they made several changes to Bing. They made several adjustments to Bing. That I think they They tried some partnerships to get people to use Bing as the exclusive search engine. And then you kind of notice, Bing was just kind of there. At least that's the way it felt to me. It was just kind of there. And I think Paul Thurrott even brought this up at times. You know, it's just there. They weren't really doing anything with it. And if they weren't talking about it. And something just tells me that in the back halls of Microsoft, they knew AI was coming. They knew they were behind, and they knew what they were going to have to do to catch up. And I think they realized, as you said, the partnership is the only way to do this. And I don't think that's a bad thing. There's a lot of successful partnerships in technology, there's a lot of successful partnerships in business. We're looking at the possibility of one being announced next week at the Apple event, where Apple is making their partnership to bring AI to their devices. It doesn't surprise me that Microsoft is a little bit behind, but sometimes when Microsoft does things and they're a little bit behind, they end up in the end doing it the right way. And I know there's been some talk about security, and I think Microsoft is going to bring Copilot down to their operating system and down to their product in the correct way. Now, as we have mentioned on previous podcasts, Microsoft can stand on their own 2 feet, but I think the preempting of Google was somewhat by design, and I think that's why we haven't heard talk of Bing in quite some time. I think somebody at Microsoft kind of knew they're going to turn this AI model loose at some point. We're behind, but we're going to have a partner to be ready when it happens.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you're 100% right on everything you said. The partnership proved to be beneficial, obviously, with them being able to come out with the product much faster. Plus, skirting any of that FTC stuff that they, were going to have to address if they were to wholesale buy a company. Their own, because like you said, Bing has always just kind of been there. It hasn't been the default. They didn't have the resources to train any of these models to get enough usage and data from people in order to keep up with Google, and they never would have been. I mean, it's if if we could imagine a world where they didn't partner and they're like, we're going to go at it alone, and Google said, what we figured out, we have the golden math equation on how we can keep search, generating its profits, and put out this new AI model, and they turn that switch on, you know, Bing is still Bing. Like it's not getting as much usage. It would have taken them years to be like, oh, guess what? We have our own model, and they would have been right in the same Bing situation. They would have been, an also ran AI company that's feature lacking and slower to the market. So the partnership worked. My only interesting thing is that the confidence in which Satya Nadella comes out with and says, "Hey, we want to make Google dance." I believe it's his quote. It's Nilay Patel that likes to use it a lot on The Verge. Uh, After having had the internal memo saying like, "Hey, we're worried about these guys," so it's interesting to see the juxtaposition of we hope these guys don't produce an AI model, and then when we do produce our own, it wasn't humbled like, "Hey, we're glad we just were able to come to the market first and get a product out that people can use." It was like, no, we had a whole plan and we knew this was going to happen. Now we're making the guys that we had feared follow us, dance to our beat because we're out first. And I think, like I said, to their credit, for anybody who needs a little bit of context, Google didn't want this out. They were
Uh,
sitting on it. They were sitting on it and they were developing it because they hadn't figured out a way to offer AI where you didn't leave their search parameters and their advertisers who pay them. Like these are people, we all pay them to a certain extent, whoever works or has a business online to get on their first page. That is where they make their bread and butter. That is, 75% of their revenues and profits for the company. That is what fuels Alphabet, which is their parent company. And when we no longer If those of you who haven't used any of these AI products, what you do is you put in a prompt to say like, hey, what are the calories in an egg casserole, on an average egg casserole, and it'll give you all of that information. Normally, what would end up happening if you were a traditional search person, it would give you a bunch of links to a bunch of different various websites that offer cooking or egg casserole recipes that had varying degrees of calorie counts in there. And you'd have to pick and choose which ones over you wanted. The top one, because of the way we've all been traditionally conditioned for search, we'd trust that one. Be like, all right, it's all recipes. All recipes is a website. Here's their egg casserole. Here's their calorie content. I'm going to click on that one. And someone paid to be in that position. That's a whole business, a whole process. When you use AI, that no longer applies. Now what AI does is it pulls that information from that website and puts it in a context in which it's more conversational, where the AI will say, hey, based on the average sum of calories that we've gathered from the internet, here's what most people are saying. And then some places will, some AIs like Copilot and I believe Gemini will have links at the bottom where you can go, if you wanted more details, you can click on them. But for the most part, your information is right there. They've cut out the battle in search to be at the top, which is what people pay for, which is how Google makes its money. This is why Google didn't want that out there for the most part. And since Bing isn't doing very well, Microsoft didn't really care. They said, hey, we're going to put ours out there. If it eats into our search, our very little bit of search, at least we'll have a product that actually is better. It's cannibalizing something that wasn't doing very well for us to begin with. So, like I said, at the end of the day, the reality is that Microsoft came out with it first. Google is coming out with theirs, and they're all, less secure right now, and they all have their issues, are all kind of working through it. But there's at least a level playing field for the first time between these two products, and we'll see, who wins out at the end versus, Google search being massive, and then Bing kind of coming in second, and Edge or Internet Explorer being massive, and then Chrome kind of overtaking that. So we'll see how these two battle it out for AI.
Well, I think there's one, and I'm gonna add one little tidbit to this because I took a picture this morning for one of our review units, and I saw a video where somebody was comparing the new Surface Pro 10 for business versus a third-party tablet that's out there. That lovely Copilot key that is existing on keyboards that are starting this year. I just want to ask our viewers a question, and they can drop it in the comments, and you can respond if you'd like. Where else are we seeing true AI integration? And I think Microsoft stands to win that battle that way because all Google has is Google Chromebooks. And, while there is a good market for Google Chromebooks, it's not something that everybody has. And Microsoft has already taken the step to go to the OEMs and the hardware providers and say, hey, how about a Copilot key? How about a Copilot key? How about a Copilot key? And the manufacturers are doing it. So where does that leave Google in getting people into interacting and reacting with their AI models? Now, granted, I have noticed when you use Google, you're getting the AI responses more and more at the top with the little box that says, if you would like to know more, type here. I have done that a few times. It works, but in some cases, all it does is increase my search results. I find that I get, and this is a little off topic, but I find that I get straight answers from our buddy Copilot in the right hand corner or down on my keyboard. So I think that's also a hump that Google is going to have to get over, is how to get people to interface with their AI models a little better.
I'm gonna wrap it up just with this one note. If I had to predict, mobile, and that is where Microsoft has its biggest gap if it's
Yeah.
looking for consumers. But again, we've explained that Microsoft is losing the AI race for consumers on purpose because they've figured out a way that enterprise will pay for it. Enterprise will pay for it, which means that it'll help pay for itself the more resources it consumes. Giving it out to fickle consumers, not necessarily the goal. But Google has a massive consumer base and they have a massive mobile advantage. So we'll see if that's where they push it more so than trying to compete one for one in enterprise with Microsoft. With that being said, let's move on to another enterprise focused headline, which I believe is yours, where we're talking about games on LinkedIn. We're back to games again. You had a lot of games this week.
Yeah, I'm the gamer, so I have enjoyed this week quite a bit. But this also struck me as a little different. When I first read this about games on LinkedIn, I was like, well, Microsoft, have you just completely lost your mind by putting games on LinkedIn, which is supposed to be a professional social network? Then I got to looking at Microsoft's plan in a blog post that they wrote and kind of put two and two together and went, maybe this isn't a bad idea. The first thing that come to mind, if you've ever been in an office environment where things get a little fun, competitive sometimes, and I use that word loosely, a fun, competitive thing to where, we just had March Madness where, we used to have, pots on games, bets on games, and maybe some contest on games. And everybody kind of gets into it no matter what department you're in. When there's talk around the office, the instant messages are flying, the little fun insults fly, and then that's kind of where Microsoft is going with these games is they put the games on LinkedIn, and I can tell you real quick, I believe there is three of them. There's a couple of puzzle games and then a card-like game where you can get in and compete and have leaderboards with your teammates. And you can even set these games I read to where they work during business hours. They're not completely distractive. And I think this is good because gaming, we've always said gaming brings everybody together. It gives you that mental break, and Microsoft brings that up in their quote where they say whether you're prepping your mind on the commute in, taking a quick mental break between meetings, or unwinding after a long day, there's an online edition for these games that are crafted by puzzle makers to make these a little fun, give you a little break, have a little tournament in the office. Games brings everybody together, even if you don't always agree with the office politics sometimes. So after reading up on this a little bit, good idea, Microsoft. This might take, we might try it. Maybe you and I, Kareem, need to get a LinkedIn game together and see what this is about. But I think this is interesting. This is different. You don't see this. I've never seen it. You don't see stuff like this.
You don't, and I'm all for it. I'm all for expanding the app in general. I think, like I said, we did a headline where they're adding video, TikTok style video to the app, which I think
Yep.
again would be great because for as much as TikTok gets derided for its dance videos and filler content, there's a lot of education going on there. I see a lot of uh, let's say kids, but younger individuals packing a lot of information into bite-sized, ingestible, time limit content. So, you can break down the housing market, the current housing market, high inflation rates, interest rates, the Feds, kind of holding that. You can break it all down within 2 or 3 minutes, with additional videos and other things like that. And I think you can bring that sort of same concentration and education to the same platform. So if you're in real estate and you want to gather other people in real estate and explain what it is about the business that you like or how to do the business, or just educate people on buying homes or selling homes or getting shareable residences and things like that. You can do it on LinkedIn. I think with games, as long as, again, if they are office oriented, if they are competitive in that nature, as long as we're not necessarily putting Candy Crush on here, but you find developers who are you know using stuff like leaderboards, using board games and search type situations to enhance the ability to be on that platform if you're already on there and you're, say, you're a marketer or you're someone else who is looking for contacts, expanding your network of people, and you happen to drift into a game as well. I think it's all for the better for them. I don't see it as a negative at all.
No.
But again, I think it just depends on the games at the end of the day. And I think developers and users will kind of guide to what they want to use. I mean, people who want to use Candy Crush will go on Facebook, and that same person will say, "All right, now that I'm done playing on Candy Crush, I want to find my next job. Let me go on LinkedIn, watch a video or two while I'm, updating my resume. While I'm also here, let me play Queens or something like that for a quick minute, and then back to whatever other app they. I think people are good at siloing their experiences, and I don't see this hurting them necessarily. With that being said, let's get into our last topic for today, which is Microsoft making security a top priority. And they need to. They've
Yes.
had a string of high profile security breaches and hacks over the last few years, actually. I want to say at least 5 or 6 years that I've been covering them. I've been covering them with you. But it seems as though there's been a red line drawn in the sand by the CEO, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, as well as, I believe, Executive Vice President Charlie Bell, who are now coming saying that we want to make security a top priority. Quote, we must and will do more. We are making security our top priority at Microsoft above all else over all other features. Quote. And that is from, again, Charlie Bell, the Executive Vice President of Microsoft. The executive explained today that the expansion of the company's Secure Feature Initiative will take into account the recommendations from the Cyber Safety Review Board, which has recently pointed out that Microsoft's response to Storm 0558 cyber attack from July 2023 at the Midnight Blizzard attack and the Midnight Blizzard attack that was reported in January were insufficient. Bell also emphasized that Microsoft's expanded SFI approach will now be guided by three principles: secure by design, secure by default, and secure operations. Under these three security principles, Bell has also listed 6 security pillars that will drive how the company overhauls its security culture. And here they are. Protect identities and secrets. Microsoft says that it's committed to implementing best-in-class security standards to ensure that 100% user accounts, applications, and identity tokens are protected. Number 2, protect tenants and isolate production systems. Microsoft will be using a best-in-class security practices and strict isolation to protect our Microsoft tenants. Number 3, protect networks. I know you are big on this. Microsoft will be implementing network isolation of Microsoft and customer resources to better protect production networks and all systems connected to them. Big old.
Yes.
Number 4, protect engineering systems. I'll let you jump in on this in a second. To protect Microsoft production environments, the company will be securing access to source code and engineering systems infrastructure through zero trust and least privilege access policies. Number 5, monitor and detect threats. Microsoft will retain 100% security logs for at least 2 years and 6 months of logs available to customers. And number 6, accelerate response and remediation. Microsoft promises to reduce the time to mitigate for high severity security cloud vulnerabilities by adopting the Common Weakness Enumeration (CWE) and Common Platform Enumeration (CPE) industry standards. What are your thoughts on Microsoft kind of going back to the basics?
Why are we having to do this? I mean, how many more security issues do we need to see for Microsoft or any other software provider to get it together and understand that when you're developing a product, a platform, a piece of hardware, does not matter what it is, that security has to be number one. I mean, we have, let's combine AI and security together for 30 seconds here. I see this every day in the network world. People doing port scans, people looking ways in that we used to call them back in the 90s kiddie scripts, that a teenager or some kid has wrote in a back bedroom somewhere, and we all thought, well, look what this teenager's done. They have penetrated a Linux server and they planted something on it. Ha ha ha. Look what they did. But now things are serious. You have ransomware. You have people's data being held hostage. You have hacks. You have things that take businesses out of business because of security holes. I have seen it happen. I have seen a business be standing one day, get ransomware or hacked, and they're no longer standing the next day, and they don't come back to stand again. So I'm a little ticked off about stuff like this when I read it because I get security. We're going back. We're adding things in. You should never be adding things in when it comes to security unless it's kind of like Microsoft Defender, for example. You come out, you're secure on the day of release, or you believe you're secure. Let me say that way. You believe you're secure on the day of release with where the current standing is, and you update that. You have an update model that updates security, like Microsoft Defender updates its virus and malware definitions. I'm upset with Microsoft for having to go backwards on this. This should be the one thing that we're not having to go backwards on.
Yeah, I am full agreement with you. I wanted to discuss this because this reminded me of something that happened close to 20 years ago when former CEO at the time, or CEO at the time, Bill Gates, had his own memo, which I believe his was about trustworthy computing. And this is when the expansion of Windows was kind of in full swing, and he kind of, they were getting hit by similar strings of uh, security breaches. And I believe he said in his memo, again back in 2002, quote, when we face a choice between adding features and resolving security issues, we need to choose security. Our products should emphasize security right out of the box. Hold for a second. In an internal memo obtained by The Verge, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella was quoted as saying, "If we're faced with the trade-off between security and another priority, your answer is clear: do security. This is key to the advancing both our platform quality and capability that we can protect the digital estates of our customers and build a safer world for all." Again, it seems like we are right back, like to your point, kind of where we started, and it's almost word for word. Again, uh, when faced with the choice between adding features and resolving security issues, we need to choose security, says Bill Gates back in 2002. Sometime this past week, Satya Nadella said, if we're faced with the trade-off between security and another priority, it's clear: do security. Um, I want to say, with a little bit of context, it seems like uh, we started seeing, at least in Windows, a plethora. Now, Windows has always kind of been derided and joked about as being that like hacker
Yes.
soft piece of software people want. Uh, and I don't begrudge Microsoft that because it's on a billion devices. So with being the top operating system comes this kind of thing. Apple can laugh and kind of sit back and say, "Hey, we're more secure." Well, it's because fewer people are using your system. Um, so, like I said, with Microsoft kind of expanding that, that's one thing. But it seems like when they started to curb their own internal QA systems and kind of outsource this to individuals with these insider programs, things like that, we're starting to see security fall by the wayside. They didn't have, as users, we're not as stringent when it comes to security or finding out holes. When you're a developer of the operating system, you can test each other by putting in holes and seeing if other developers or QA people in your own group will find them. And this is a practice some people do, and it seems like Microsoft's not doing it. Hasn't been doing it for quite a bit, and now we're starting to see the vulnerabilities come alongside new features. I think they are more in the rush to put out a new feature than they are to test that feature against security. They're saying, "Hey, look, here's the new thing. Does it work? It's mostly secure." And then someone comes along and says, well, not as much as you think it is. And instead of fixing it immediately, which is part of one of the pillars about accelerating the response to remediation time, they are saying we'll put out an added part of the feature, and perhaps maybe when we do that, it'll fix that. Or if it doesn't, you've already moved on to something else. It seems that I think you and I were talking about, Mike, that the network issue that Microsoft has faced for Windows is still there. 20 years later, still an issue. Uh, and now they're at least calling it out. Hopefully, that will mean that they will address it soon. But how has something like this slipped past development for 20 years? Has no one made it a top priority to say, we need to fix this? Are they just counting the numbers, saying, people accessing this issue aren't big enough to warrant a developer team forward?
Well, something to think about. What are these companies in business to do? They're in business to make money. And I'm about to open Pandora's box here. How does fixing these security problems, when people are going to use Windows anyway, and let's be clear, if Google had an operating system out there, and they do, Chrome OS, but
I was going to say, that's a backhanded compliment.
y- if they had a,
If someone were using Chrome OS, I guess they'd have these issues.
you know, I'm sure there's some security issues in Chrome OS, but what money does Microsoft make by fixing these issues? Because they are the operating system monopoly. So, for example, I'm not going to give specifics here to help out anybody, but the SMB shares, like we were just talking about, that is still not as secure as it is supposed to be, as they have even talked about it being in the past. I still see basic networking tools from 20 years ago flag that service. So Microsoft makes no money in fixing these security issues. They probably don't lose enough money for it to matter by not fixing these security issues. So to your point, keep pushing features out because that's what makes the money. And I think every major company, Google and Apple, I know, Apple is always taunting security, always that they are the most secure operating system. They are the most secure platform. And I'm going to beg to differ that even the Apple exploits have been up higher than normal over the last couple of years. Yeah, I do read the 9 to 5 Macs out there, and I do keep up with what Apple does. So fixing security doesn't make the cash. So it doesn't end up at the priority list unless one of your business customers that gives you enough money for it to matter makes it a priority, which may be what happened here.
Yeah.
One of your license providers, an OEM, somebody who their number on your balance sheet makes a difference. The accountant sees that number on that balance sheet. The accountant looks for that number on that balance sheet. They brought it up. We're going to fix it. We're going to put that emphasis on it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We always, always a good rule of thumb is follow the money. To your point, you don't make money on securing certain things, not at least not with this business model for software, but you can lose money. And to that point, maybe there is a contract that is routinely renewed worth millions, billions of dollars that is in question with the replacement of perhaps a homegrown Linux version that could be tailored to be as secure as the person needs it or the contract needs it. That is now making Microsoft say, hey, with enough of these, maybe we only need 2 or 3 or maybe a handful of these contracts to be rethought that will affect our balance sheet. We need to start making it more secure. And I think as we get into, and to Microsoft's point, they're also being hauled in front of Congress. I'm pretty sure they're tired of having to leave their development areas, leave their meetings, stuff like to go explain stuff, and particularly things about security, things that should be a no-brainer. Maybe Nadell is tired of having to go to the halls of Congress and say, "Hey, how did Exchange get hacked again? And what are you going to do to fix it?" So you know what? I'll have these conversations with my people. I don't need to come talk to you guys anymore about this. We will handle this. And I think it's a confluence of a bunch of things, but to the end point of this conversation, it's a good thing. Now,
Yeah.
We will mark this. What is it? May 3rd, 2024. We'll see if we'll be having the same sort of conversation next year, the year after, 10 years from now again, because Microsoft has dropped the ball. So hopefully we start to see a change. We start to see more security amongst their products, particularly the ones we like using, which are Windows and Office and Xbox and all these other things. And for those who are in the enterprise, cloud and whatever else you guys need. But hopefully we'll start seeing a trend, and maybe that trend will lead to the slowing down of product releases, but the increase in security for those products that are released.
And I'll take that. I will take that any day of the week because, let's go back a few years for 30 seconds. Everything is online. Like I called a business this week. I will not name that business, but I needed some customer support.
Stadia.
No, their phone number was disconnected.
Oh,
But
man.
as I'm listening to the IVR, they're welcoming me and they're giving me options to press. They told me 4 times before I got to the option that I needed that I could visit their website to get what I needed. Well, the problem was the website would not let me set up an account to get what I needed, so therefore I was forced to call in. But it really made me realize companies, and it kind of makes everything we talk about go full circle. When I got to the website, what was I introduced with? A chat bot that was AI based to give me my response. Now, I'm not going to comment on the responses because I didn't really get a chance to tinker with it too much. But when I called in, I had go to the website. So if you're going to force people to do their business online, the software that they do that business with, the PCs that they do that business with, the phones they do that business with, the tablets, Android, Windows, Linux, Chrome OS, whatever it may be, we need to do a better job as a whole at being secure. And if the release of Windows, since we are Microsoft based, is delayed a month, I'm cool with that. As long as you come out and say, hey, we're doing security testing, we're making sure this is locked down. You know, build XYZ is going to be delayed. I'm cool with that. And I think if you ask most people and most businesses, they're also going to be cool with that.
You heard it here, folks. David doesn't want any more new features. He just wants security. So when you don't
That's
get your new
right.
features, you know who to go after.
Feel free.
Uh,
Come on, I'll take it.
with that being said, we want to thank you guys for joining us for another week of news. We hope you guys have a great weekend. Where can people find you if they want to blame you for no new builds next week?
Blame me for no new builds and blame me for Stadia's phone being disconnected if you'd like. David PAJ 1978. That is across Twitter, X, and also Threads. Um, come on over. I like having these discussions with people. I like seeing our comments pop up sometimes during the week. So feel free.
You can find me at Mindhead1 on Twitter, Kareem Anderson on Threads and Instagram, if you so choose. That's it. We want you guys again to have a great week. We will be back next week with more news. Follow the website for any potential leaks. Like I said, keep an eye out news wise for any alerts for new Surface devices. Maybe we'll get some renders because again, we're going to be getting new looks for these devices.
Can't wait.
Otherwise, yeah, me either. Otherwise, have a great night, a great weekend.
Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.